is Oscar Mikey, and welcome to this Winning the 100 Years War guide in Ironman. This guide is perfect for the one night in Paris achievement, or just for playing England while remaining a potent force in the continent. I'm Oscar Mike, and as always, thanks for watching. Alright folks, first let's go to advisor panel. We're going to want either 5% discipline, military advisor, or 10% additional morale. The other advisors are purely optional. We're going to go and convert our faction leader into a general. Go ahead and select an issue to push through Parliament, although this won't have any meaningful impact on this guide. We'll go ahead and do it anyway. Next up, we're going to hire 2 Latin medieval infantry units in Normandy and Co. And they're going to be mercenaries, and we're going to do the same in southern England. Take a loan and recruit 5 chevauchés mercenary units in Wessex, Cornwall, London and Kent. We're going to take our fleet, take our combat ships, go ahead and send them over to Côte d'Argent, which is the sea town bordering Gascogne and Le Bord, and we're going to take our 17 transport ships and dock them in Kent, ready to ferry over troops from Kent to Co. And still pause, we offer an alliance with Austria. On pause, wait 1 day, offer an alliance with Castile. On pause, wait 1 more day, offer an alliance with Savoy. So we've allied Savoy, Castile and Austria, and then we're going to wait for our diplomats who we just expanded to return. And once we've returned, we're immediately going to offer an alliance with Venice, which you'll see in a second. And likewise, we'll finally offer an alliance with Scotland. So we pushed ourselves way over the diplomatic force limits, allying Scotland, Austria, Venice, Castile and Savoy. And the reason why we do that is because that negates France from acquiring those same alliances. Those are the nations France likes to ally, and by allying them ourselves, we prevent France from building up a defensive alliance, which could be quite problematic. So we're recruiting our infantry units and our cavalry units. We haven't selected any rivals yet. We're waiting for our missions to refresh. So in order to get the mission, force personal union on France, we need to exceed their total number of infantry units and cavalry units. I see we're having a bit of problem procuring it here, so as a precaution I'm going to go ahead and recruit 2 more Latin medieval infantry units in Normandy and Co. That'll bring us up to 34,000 troops. There we go, we got the mission. Only now are we going to select our rivals, because if you have rivals established whilst you're trying to procure this mission, it prioritises other military missions, so you're not going to be able to get it as easily. So now that we've got the mission, we select our rivals, going to be Burgundy, France and Denmark, and we'll embargo all of them just to boost our power projection up a little bit and get that army morale slightly higher. So if you followed me so far, we've set up alliances. We've built up our army size to exceed that of France's. That's allowed us to get the mission, force personal union in France. We selected our rivals. We've massed up our troops and Co. 34,000 troops in total. We're not going to accept any of those royal marriages offer because I want the the War of Roses to trigger. Not because it's going to help us, because it's going to be more challenging. I just want to demonstrate you can pull this strategy off with War of Roses. So, on the first, at the start of the month, February, we go ahead and declare war on France. Immediately move our 34,000 troops into Paris. Has to be at the start of the month, and I'll show you why in a second. Now, our Richard Plantagenet, a general, has superior manoeuvre to the French general. That negates the river crossing. It means we fight in even terms. And because we declared war at the start of the month, that doesn't give the French army the opportunity to recover its morale. They start the war with lower army maintenance than ourselves. So we just move over into Paris, stack wipe that enemy army, which you should be able to accomplish fairly easily. I think I got slightly below average rolls there. And we're going to split our army into 2 parts, take on damage regiments, and I'm going to park them in Co. And right now what we're doing is we're waiting, scouting out the French army. There it is. French army has 10,000 other troops that we know about. And they either move north to reinforce in Paris, or they go ahead and move south to siege Le Bord. So seeing that, we take our 17,000 on damage regiments with our leader. And you can see we're moving our fleet in Côte d'Argent out of the Cittal province. That triggered the French to try and attack us, which they're doing, but we should be able to win that battle fairly easy. We're going to recruit a couple more Latin medieval infantry units in Gascogne. I'm going to amphibiously land our troops in Gascogne. Now, why are we doing this? Well, we shattered one French army at the opening phases of conflict. The second French army either goes south or north, like I said. If they go south, any French reinforcing regiments, which they will build because they're now under their total army force limits, will seek to reinforce the non-shattered French army. So all their regiments will be flooding south to reinforce these 10,000 troops sieging the board. And if we park army in Gascogne, we should be able to interdict these reinforcing regiments. So here we go, here comes the first one, 4,000 cavalry units. So destroying that's going to be a key priority. We move army into Armagnac. Engage it. Now the Navarrese troops, they're France's only ally, are attacking Gascogne. So we're going to immediately reinforce that. We stack wipe the 4,000 French cavalry. Reinforce into Gascogne. Put our king as our leader just to hold the line a little bit, waiting for our reinforcements. You can see that. Commander switches over to Richard Plantagenet. We take a defensive battle with negative modifiers in the attacking force, and we should be able to stack wipe this army, hopefully. We don't stack wipe it because we get pretty bad rolls, but that's perfectly fine. And you can see French are still trying to reinforce Le Bourd. We're just marshalling up our forces in the south, all the while sieging down Paris. So in the second phase of the strategy guide, this is what you want to do. You want to buy time. You can do that in two ways. We need to complete the siege of Paris. Incidentally, we also want to prevent the French from sieging down Le Bourd, and we want to defeat the French reinforcing regiments that are heading to the south of France. So that's another enemy army wiped out. We're just moving back and forth, intercepting all the armies we can, preventing them from reaching the French 12,000 army stack in Le Bourd. And we wiped out another enemy army, and we're moving back into Gascogne. And once we do that, now the French, we have successfully stopped the French from sieging Le Bourd. The downside is they're going to attack us in Le Bourd, so we'll have to fight a defensive battle here. We wiped out the small army we were originally attacking, so we're going to recruit a few more infantry units, mercenaries of course, preserving our manpower and ensuring we get them out quickly. So they attack, they take a -1 negative modifier. We have 6-1 advantage in cavalry and more infantry, but we are getting some pretty bad rolls here, so battle isn't going quite as I would like. Slightly more decent rolls now, but the damage has been done. We lost those rolls in the opening phases of battle. Critical time to win your rolls, it's very opening phases because you do the most morale damage and your troops fight with the highest effectiveness. So we are going to lose that battle, but that's no problem at all. Why is it no problem? Because we're losing at the end of a month, and that's extremely important. So we lose the battle, but it's fine. We've timed it correctly. We fought the battle at the right time. We lose at the end of a month. That gives us 1 month of morale recovery, which ensures that our army is not shattered. We are going to lose our mercenary group in Le Bourd. That's fine. We're able to stack wipe an enemy army in Armagnac. The French are pursuing, but due to our leader's superior maneuverability, we're going to be able to escape Armagnac. So yeah, just again reiterating that point. If you lose the battle just before the end of a month, once your army retreats, you'll get 1 month's army morale recovery when the next month occurs. That's going to ensure that when your army does retreat to whichever province it's headed, you still maintain control and you can move it. And that's what has allowed us to escape with our troops. So it's in Gascogne. We've got ships currently docked there, which means that we're pretty safe in the knowledge that if things go badly, we can retreat. So we're going to head into Poitou and defeat this 1,000 infantry unit, French army, which is also again reinforcing. Now, France is once again resetting the siege of Le Bourd, which you saw there, which is great. Which is exactly what we're trying to do, just buying time, destroying these small French army stacks that are reinforcing. Which is the strategy I always aim to avail. Don't focus on fighting these huge pitched battles, which can go one way or the other. A reliable strategy is always taking out these small French army stacks that are bound to reinforce. And you can see here, just by keeping our army here, we're moving into Périgueux, and we're attacking another French army of 3,000 troops, which hopefully we'll be able to stack wipe. There we go, another 3,000 French troops destroyed. So once again, Siege of Le Bourd's been reset. Excellent. Downside is we're not going to be able to escape. We're in a province that requires quite a degree of time to extricate ourselves from. So we'll have to fight another defensive battle. We're low army morale, but we've got good troop numbers with high you know, high proportion of cavalry in relation to infantry. It's going to fight the battle. It does appear that we're going to lose this, which is unfortunate. Getting some pretty bad rolls here, sadly. If we got good rolls, we would have been able to win easily and possibly stack wipe the French army. But as it is, some unfortunate rolls. So we'll cancel our mercenary units in Gascogne and Laborde because we're not going to be able to reinforce in time. And also you can see there's 1,000 French cavalry troops. So there we go. We lose the battle, but as you can see, once again, we lose the battle at the end of a month. Which means we only have to wait about 3 or 4 days. And there you go, army morale recovers. We regain control of our army and we're able to exit it from the province. So we lost that battle, but we did inflict more casualties than we suffered. We've done a tremendous amount of damage to French reinforcing regiments, which also significantly delayed the siege of Laborde, and as a result, our siege of Paris, which is the war goal, is progressing rather well. So we take our troops, regroup in Normandy, give them an opportunity to recover their morale and recover their full army unit strength. Again, if at the very opening phase, once you've defeated the French army in Paris, if the French don't attack Laborde, they'll head up north and you can replicate the exact same strategy except around Paris, Normandy, Caen and Alençon. Works either way. I do consider it an important and necessary dimension of the strategy though, because if the French army are given a sort of unimpeded chance to regroup, then they will marshal up their forces in a massive doomstack, and they'll usually try and, you know, break the siege of Paris. And that's a battle that can go one way or the other. There'll be similar numbers either side, and you could lose if you get some bad rolls. So again, as all my strategies, this strategy aims to work sort of regardless about how lucky you are. Get our decision, build a great palace. We'll go ahead and take the prestige, why not? Increases our overall army morale. And having pushed ourselves so far over the diplomatic force limits, what we've actually enabled us to do is only fight France and Navarre in this war. Had we not taken those early diplomatic actions, we'd be going up against 10,000 Savoy troops and possibly 14,000 Scottish troops, and maybe even Venice would be in the war. So we've certainly helped ourselves out quite a lot by doing that. So mindful of the fact that the siege of Laborde is actually progressing extremely fast for France, I'm going to take my 17,000 troops, the ones I was just using, return them to the south of France, seek to reoccupy Gascogne. Here's a decision, Margaret of Anjou. This has a relatively high chance of firing. I'll go ahead and take our new leader. It'll replace our very poor current one. And this is a decision that will give us an heir. However, I'm going to presume that you haven't had this event fire for you, so I'm actually going to go ahead and not accept the heir, because I want the 100 Years' War to fire, purely to demonstrate that you can complete this strategy, defeat France militarily and their single ally, whilst contending with the War of the Roses event. Because it's entirely possible War of the Roses will fire for you, as it will for me. Hopefully. Alright, so our troops have landed amphibiously in Gascogne. I want to reoccupy this province so that I can dock my ships and attach them to the fleet. You can see how quickly the French siege of Laborde has progressed. There it is, it's over. Didn't last long. They must have got some extremely good rolls, so we'll go ahead and retreat our troops. We could take a defensive battle here. We would have an advantage. But the French have 12,000 additional troops, and again, these strategy guides aim to totally minimize your reliance on luck. So I'm not going to take an equal engagement unless I have to. I'm only going to take engagements where I have overwhelming superiority in both numbers, army morale, troop composition, and defensible terrain. So we returned our troops back to Caux, and we're just waiting for the siege of Paris to progress. Once it does, we'll enter the second phase of the war, which involves smashing the French army in the field and preventing them from withdrawing into the interior. There we go, siege of Paris completed. Now I've massed up all my troops in Paris. That's going to prevent them from trying to attack that province. You could split your army into two groups, leave half in Paris, half in Caux, and have the French attack Paris only to reinforce with the other half of your army. However, again, if you get bad rolls, you'll actually lose that battle. So we're going to try and avoid doing that. I mean, you could see the French already have 28,500 troops despite the damage we've inflicted upon them. We have slight numerical superiority, but it's not nearly enough to reliably win battles off them. The battles could go either way at this point, even if we'd have a slight advantage. So we're going to avoid fighting pitched battles for now. We're just going to bide our time a little bit. What the French will do now is oftentimes seek to re-siege Paris or go ahead and occupy Gascogne. So we're going to just wait for them to split their army into two parts and seek to attack them when we can muster up overwhelming numbers against them. So here they go. I was talking about the bait strategy. We left half our army in Paris. They attacked. We're only doing this now because the rest of their armies in the south of France, as you can see. We are getting some shockingly bad rolls, unfortunately. Despite having, 4 times as many cavalry, twice as many of infantry. Just because we've got such bad rolls, which seems to be a theme in my guides, we've actually only marginally beat them. But that's fine. Again, our strategy doesn't revolve around us winning good rolls. It just revolves around us having, good battlefield tactics. Good maneuver, always seeking to get the number of advantages. So here's the event lack of an heir. That both increases the time it takes or decreases the speed at which the War of Roses event fires, and it also lowers the likelihood of you getting an heir, which is good for us because as I say, I want the War of Roses to fire. So we find 1,000 French troops reinforcing. Just go ahead and take them out. You can see our army is suffering quite high attrition at the moment, but I want to keep my troops consolidated because I don't want to fight any battles on equal terms. You can see the French army that was shattered in the Battle of Paris will retreat to Lyon, I believe that is, or Lyonnais. So that's where, and we can access that province through Burgundy. So that's something to be mindful of later on. If we fight other battles with the French, we'll seek to stack wipe them by pursuing them straight to that province. You can see I'm being extremely careful about when I decide to occupy these provinces. There's no rush. We're getting ticking war score from the occupation of Paris, which is the thing I'm mostly concerned with. Occupying these provinces are nice because it deprives France of extra income and manpower. But given the fact that the French still have quite a significant army, we're going to be very cautious, ensure that we don't lose any small occupying forces. You can see I can split my army into quite large groups of 8,000 each. That means if any single group is attacked, I'll be able to reinforce in time and not lose any units needlessly. You can see the French army are moving up north now, so I'm being extremely careful. Immediately starting to regroup all my forces. Now it does appear that they are going to catch one of my regiments, unfortunately. Now that is a mercenary unit, so I'm not overly concerned about that. It's exactly why I am very reluctant to occupy the provinces at this stage, because the French can still muster up a very significant army. Yep, they're going to eliminate that army, so I'm going to buy my time a little bit, wait to see what the French do once they've entered Namur. Now I'm going to head to Paris. So you can see here I can sort of drive a wedge between the French army. They have 12,500 troops in Berry, 15,000 troops in Namur. So if I can enter Namur before the French army can reinforce, I can fight a defensive battle and split the French army in two, which is what I'm trying to do. Now, unfortunately, I made a bit of a mistake here. I become movement locked, and not only did I forget to assign my general to my army, but I assumed that I'd be able to enter that province before the French, and I wasn't able to, so I take a -1 penalty to an attacking force, and I don't have a general equipped, which is extremely bad. Thankfully, I got a decent roll, 9 to 6 a shock nail, though I am losing the fire rolls quite badly. And then I lose a disastrous 0 to 7 shock roll, so I retreat as soon as possible and head to Ko. So that was a bit of a blunder. Bit of a useful guide, but always never assume you're going to arrive in a province first, even though your general is high maneuver, and always make sure that your general's equipped to your army. When you do that, you won't run into disasters like that. So that was unfortunate, but also nice to show that you can sort of blunder about a bit, as I am doing, and still be able to execute this strategy rather nicely. Then we'll recruit a few more infantry units and cavalry units, bring our army up to a total land force limit, which we are already at, but I have a lot of under-strength units, so I'll recruit those mercenaries anyway. And just parking my army in Normandy. Marshalling up my forces, waiting for their morale to recover, and then I'm immediately going to regain the initiative by going on the offensive. Now, if the French marshal up all their troops in Paris, which they can do, there's a way of breaking them up. So yeah, they abort their attempt to go to Orléans. So I'm going to try and destroy this army from Navarre. It's only 1,500 troops. I am suffering very high attrition. But I want to eliminate these small armies, depriving them of the opportunity to reinforce the French. And I'm taking 5% attrition, so I'm going to go ahead and split up my army in two and focus on occupying all these provinces while France is currently engaged in the siege of Paris. Suffice to say, it is absolutely critical that we don't lose control of Paris. If we were to do that, that would be pretty disastrous. It would inevitably delay the completion of this war, and by extension this guide, by quite a bit. So we're just using this opportunity while they're sieging down Paris to occupy all these provinces. Unfortunately, very early on into the siege, I believe in the second siege phase, so what, about 80 days have passed, they actually breached the fortifications. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to take some drastic action. Recruit. And there we go, War of Roses fires. Now there's two ways you can deal with War of Roses. For the purposes of this guide, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to deal with it in the preferred measure. What you can do is, if you have Paris occupied and you've beaten up the French army and they're not mounting... Okay, well, let's go ahead and attack Paris first. We move in, we've got overwhelming numbers of troops, we have more cavalry, more infantry, and higher morale. And we're getting some decent rolls. And we're able to win that battle rather comfortably. Now, I mentioned earlier that the French retreat path is through Burgundy and into Lyonnais, so we're going to go ahead and pursue that retreating army. Now, the preferred way to deal with War of Roses is take your army, return them to England, recruit a single mercenary infantry unit in Meath, split up all your army throughout England, occupying every single province, and that will ensure that the rebels spawn in either Normandy or Coeur, and that way the French have to deal with them. But because we were concerned about France sieging down Paris rather quickly because they got the fortification breach, I had to ignore that strategy. Take the rebel troops spawning in England. So again, I'm just Following this retreating French army, unfortunately in the Battle of Lyonnais, I suffered horrific rolls adhering to our theme, and so I wasn't able to stack right that enemy army or indeed inflict very heavy casualties upon them. So, we got rebels that we're not going to be able to deal with for now. There's far too many of them. I think around 26,000 of them occupying good defensive terrain. So we'll focus on defeating France quickly. It's important to point out we're not that far off that objective. There they go, English Pretender regiments occupying Lancashire. So again, had the French not progressed the siege of Paris so much, I would have actually retreated my army, split it up into lots of parts, put a regiment in every English province and in Meath, and that would ensure that the rebels spawn in either Normandy, Caux, Gascogne or Lombard. Alternatively, I could put regiments in those provinces as well as Calais, and they wouldn't spawn at all, which is a great tip to know. It is my preferred method of doing this, but again, unfortunately, haven't had the best luck this playthrough, and France did get a fortification breach in the second siege phase, so we're just having to improvise a little bit, but that should give you some essential precepts on how you can go about the strategy. So we're closing out the war now, basically, with all these provinces occupied. We're actually dissolving our alliances to bring us back under the total diplomatic force limits. That way we're not suffering excessive and unnecessary diplomatic monarch power penalties. Also worth pointing out that I didn't have to fight the War for Roses here, but again, I just want to demonstrate that if this event fires, it's actually quite easy to manage, even whilst at war with France. So there's another event there. Just take a look here to see how much more we need. We can actually form a union with France now. But before we do that, I just want to fight one more battle with France. You can see here there's 10,000 troops heading into Paris. If I can stack right this army, it'll actually help us maintain the union once the war is over. So that's what we're going to aim to do. We're getting quite even rolls, slight advantage. Yeah, not bad rolls there, but unfortunately we're not able to stack right the French enemy army. So there's 2,000 more regiments here moving to reinforce. However, as you can see, we have accrued sufficient war score to impose the union, and really we haven't really done that much in terms of prosecuting this war. All we did, if you remember, is eliminate that French army at the start, siege down Paris, defeat the French reinforcing regiments, ensure we maintain control of the occupation of Paris whilst occupying some northern French provinces. That's all we really needed to do. And we didn't even do that perfectly. We lost 2 battles in the south of France and lost a very bad battle where I blundered and forgot to assign a leader. So I'm just seeing how much money we can get. The more the better. That's going to allow us to pay off some of our loans. And there we go. England has formed a personal union with France. It's only 10th of March 1448, but we've accomplished that. That's our mission completed. Go ahead and pick a new mission. Also very important to point out at this stage that if you've gotten this far, just remember enforcing that personal union has ensured that you've accumulated quite a bit of aggressive expansion. So, to the second phase of the strategy that I'm not going to show you, but obviously we'll deal with the War of Roses, but just be mindful of the fact that you're operating onto quite high aggressive expansion. If you immediately declared war in Burgundy, which is probably what I would do, don't try and take everything. Maybe aim to retake your core in Picard, but don't try and take Picard, Artois, and all these provinces you don't necessarily need. Keep keep your aggressive expansion down quite low is what I would recommend. So now what we got to do is go ahead and take out this army in England. So it's 26,000 troops. They have a weak general, but we still have to take this threat seriously. And in keeping with all my themes, I'm going to go way overkill in terms of how many troops I deploy against this army. Just because if rolls go badly, as they often do, you want to ensure that you can still win. If we lost this battle, we would have to take out excessive loans to recruit additional mercenaries, given the fact that our manpower is at 0. So it's split army into 2 parts to minimize attrition. Just wait for army morale to recover. Army morale to recover. And to build up some of our mercenary units. Or dissolve our alliance with Venice, just because now that we have a union with France, that's given us another diplomatic relation. So we're back over the force limits. So 2 more Latin medieval infantry units should do it. I'm just taking every precaution I can, ensure that in this battle I have overwhelming numerical superiority. That way if I get terrible rolls, I won't lose the battle. You do not want to lose this battle. If you lose this battle, it's going to cost you a great deal. So we have roughly 6,000 additional troops with a superior general and more cavalry. So we go ahead and take the battle. There's an heir. Rather convenient timing. Getting pretty good rules for this battle. It looks like we're going to be able to mop that army quite quickly. Go ahead and take the extra legitimacy. Pursue this retreating army. There it goes. Stack right. And Oxfordshire will automatically be restored to our control due to our fortification in March. And as you can see, conditions, we need +1 stability. So we go ahead and take that, boosting our stability for the cost of 90 administrative monarch power. And there's the end of War of Roses, +1 stability and 50 prestige. There you go, folks. That's how you do it. That's how you win the 100 Years' War in the current version of the game. This is my 3rd 100 Years' War video. It is important to stress that with the changes to the game, it is significantly easier to win the 100 Years' War by adhering to this strategy. Much easier than my previous guides. I think the average time of my previous guides was around 1 hour and 5 minutes. This, we've got it down to just over 30 minutes. And we're in a far stronger position. The War of Roses ended. Got our personal union. Aggressive expansion reasonably low. Got a good leader and an heir. So that's it, folks. That's how you do it. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I'm Oscar Mike, and thanks for watching.